Coming up on 5 Minute News. Mass shootings in Oklahoma, Atlanta and Texas as the world looks on in horror. Florida Republicans passed discriminatory bills on pronouns, immigration and more. And Kremlin falsely claims Ukraine tried to assassinate Putin by drone. It's Thursday, May 4. I'm Anthony Davis. An Oklahoma sex offender who was released from prison early shot his wife, her 3 children and their 2 friends and then killed himself, authorities confirmed yesterday, as concerns grew about why he was even free, as his trial on new sex charges loomed. Police Chief Joe Prentice said that the victims had each been shot with a 9mm pistol when they were found on Monday near a creek and in a heavily wooded area in rural Oklahoma. The bodies apparently had been moved there from where they were originally killed, the scene staged before Jesse McFadden, a 39-year-old convicted sex offender, killed himself, Prentice said in the first major update on the case. Meanwhile, a man opened fire inside the waiting room of an Atlanta medical facility, killing 1 woman and injuring 4 others yesterday as authorities swarmed the city's bustling midtown neighborhood in search of the gunman. Authorities said 24-year-old Dayon Patterson stole a vehicle and fled after shooting 5 women on the 11th floor of a Northside medical building shortly after noon. The facility is in a commercial area filled with office towers and high-rise apartments, and news of the shooting prompted workers and lunchgoers to shelter in place for hours. A 39-year-old woman was pronounced dead at the scene of the shooting. The 4 injured victims were also women, aged 25, 39, 56 and 71. A manhunt went into the night before Patterson was apprehended outside the city in neighboring Cobb County. And after an hours-long standoff at a motel, police in Central Florida fatally shot a man suspected of killing a mother and her 3 children. 38-year-old Al Joseph Stenson quickly became a suspect on Tuesday night after police were called to an apartment complex in Lake Wales, where they found the bodies of the 40-year-old woman and children aged 21, 17 and 11. Finally, officials said on Wednesday that they have arrested the wife of the man they believe had fatally shot 5 people in a neighborhood dispute outside Cleveland, Texas. The arrest was one of several the authorities made after locating and arresting the suspect on Tuesday. Mass shootings on this scale only happen in the United States due to the unregulated sale of firearms. Florida Republicans on Wednesday approved bills to ban diversity programs in colleges and prevent students and teachers from being required to use pronouns that don't correspond to someone's sex, building on the top priorities of far-right Republican Governor Ron DeSantis. The 2 proposals were given final passage by the Republican supermajorities in the House and Senate. DeSantis is expected to sign the bills into law. DeSantis, who is expected to announce a presidential campaign in the coming weeks, has driven a hardline far-right agenda as he seeks to bolster support of Republican primary voters ahead of his White House run. The state's legislative session, scheduled to end this week, has been dominated by divisive cultural issues, with Republican allies of DeSantis approving his priority bills on sexual orientation, gender identity, race and education that are expected to aid the governor in his presidential bid. The Senate on Wednesday voted to expand the law critics call Don't Say Gay, a major calling card of DeSantis, with a sweeping bill that prevents school staffers or students from being required to refer to people by pronouns that don't correspond to the person's sex. It also bans classroom instruction on gender identity and sexual orientation up to 8th grade, legally reinforcing a DeSantis administration move to prohibit such lessons in all grades. Separately, Republicans in the House gave final passage to a DeSantis priority bill that bans colleges from using state or federal funding for diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And they intend to ban DACA attorneys from practicing in Florida. Russia accused Ukraine on Wednesday of a failed attempt to assassinate President Vladimir Putin in a drone attack on the Kremlin citadel in Moscow and threatened to retaliate. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Kiev had nothing to do with the reported overnight incident. Vladimir Putin was not in residence. A drone attack on the Kremlin would be the most severe penetration of Russian airspace since German teen Matthias Rust landed his little single-engine plane on the fringes of Red Square in 1987. Announcing the attack, or even faking it, risks Russia undermining its citizens' trust in its frequent assertions of military superiority. Adding to that humiliation is the incident occurred less than a week before Victory Day, Russia's paramount military holiday. In some of the videos of the claimed attack, the decorated viewing stands and tribune for the day's ritual Red Square military parade can be seen prominently. For authoritarian President Vladimir Putin, the confession of Ukrainian drones reaching the Kremlin could be justification for a brutal step-up of attacks on Ukraine. Russian officials persistently contend, repeated evidence to the contrary, that the military goes after only military targets. Severe retaliation is already in the wind, including threats aimed specifically at Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Russia's nuclear doctrine says the country can use nuclear weapons if it comes under a nuclear strike or if it faces an attack with conventional weapons that threatens the very existence of the Russian state. The West has accused Putin of nuclear saber-rattling during the Ukraine war. You can subscribe to the 5-Minute News Patreon for bonus videos, commentary, and more. Go to patreon.com/5minutenews.